Mike Elko's messaging to his team ahead of this matchup with South Carolina has been perfect.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. So, ladies and gentlemen, on the show today, we're going to talk a little bit about, hey, recruiting is starting to boom a little bit in that 2026 class. We're talking about where the Aggies are at in both the 26 and 25 class. We're going to talk about, does a two-quarterback system make sense? Conversation I had last night on the SEC Squad show. But we're going to start the show talking about Mike Elko's messaging. Listen, Mike Elko, one thing that has about coaching that is a little detail that's very important, I wouldn't even say it's a little detail, it's very important, is making sure your team is ready for big games, for big moments, making sure your team is prepared and that you are getting the right messaging across. One thing I've always respected about like Kirby Smart is like they could be playing, Tarleton State, and he's going to talk about, and you're going to hear Kirby Smart go, the entire world's against you. They think you're going to lose. Everyone in the world, there's a target on your back. No one thinks you're going to win this game. And you're sitting here going, well, you're playing Weber State. I mean, what are we talking about here? But the messaging. I have loved Coach Elko's messaging this week. Now, and I don't think it's bullcrap. I think sometimes, you see Kirby Smart have to make up some narratives, which is part of coaching. I get it. He's getting his team. He's making sure his team is prepared for games. I think Coach Elko's messaging is legit when it comes to the matchup against South Carolina. This game has trap game written absolutely all over it, somewhat similar to the Mississippi State game. Luckily, you don't, but this is more of there's a big game coming up after it. It's more of you don't want to have the big win hangover that we've seen Alabama have. We've seen different teams have this big game hangover, and you don't want to be a team that has that. So Coach Elko's messaging his team has been perfect. And that is how I think that step one to avoiding hangover losses like this is exactly what Coach Elko is doing. He's making sure his team's prepared. He's making sure his team understands what's going on. He's making sure that his team knows how talented South Carolina is and knows that there are a couple things going better against LSU or from this season being a lot different for the Gamecocks. This is a good football team with an elite defense. And Coach Elko has pushed that point across to his team, as he should be. There's no question he should be doing that, because at the end of the day, if he's not pushing that point across, it's going to be really, really hard for this team to win this game. This is a good football team, legend. I want to continue to reiterate that. This is a good South Carolina team that has beaten some quality opponents. So, South Carolina is a team that, I'm worried about this game. Their defense is really good. Their offense is, their defense is really good. So that's something I'm paying attention to. And so the plan is not to spend this whole segment talking about this messaging. I only want to spend about 5 minutes on it. But what I love about it is that Coach Elko is not going to let his team walk into this game and be unprepared. He's not going to let his team walk into this game and not realize what they're walking into when it comes to the environment, that you are now a top 10 team. You are now a team that is looking to get into the playoff. You now have a target on your back. You were the hunter. Now you're the hunted. That's the reality. They want to beat you. South Carolina wants to beat you. They want to beat you bad. They want to continue, Beamer's trying to do something special. They want to win this game. This is a huge game for this program. You have to know that. And if you go in there and you play your game and you play well and you run the football and you play good defense, you're going to win this game. But if you go in there and you put up a performance similar to what we saw against Mississippi State, you're going to lose, and you might lose by 2 touchdowns. So this Texas A&M team has got to show up as if it's, you know what I mean? This is a game you have to pretend in your head you're playing a top 5 team, because you can't let yourself go, well, we're playing unranked South Carolina on the road. You can't do it. You can't do that. You have to prepare like this is, which it is. I mean, we've talked about it, ladies and gentlemen. You are not shooting yourself in the foot against South Carolina and against Auburn away from making a college football playoff, and that, you know, and seeing yourself in the SEC championship game. Like this is what we're looking at here. You just can't shoot yourself in the foot in these football games. And that's not an easy ask. I don't want y'all to think that I'm saying, well, you just got to beat South Carolina. It's no big deal. It's going to be easy to ever good. That's not the case. This is a really good football team, a really underrated football team. I mean, this defense, ladies and gentlemen, I just pulled this up. They're third in college football in sacks, and they're pretty sure top 10. They're top 5 in sacks for sure, and they're top 15 in turnovers. Maybe they were tied for 12th, I think is what it was. But in turnovers, gained. They have taken the football away on defense, and they have gotten after the quarterback. And like I said, they have had terrible fumble luck, in my opinion. I think it was they forced 15 fumbles. They've recovered 6 of them. They recover a few more of those, and they're top 5 in college football in turnovers gained. This team is creating turnovers. This team is getting after the quarterback. This Texas A&M offense has to be ready for what this defense is going to bring, because you're going to have to find a way to score points. You're going to have to be prepared. You're going to have to find a way to create something on offense, even though this defense is great. Coach Elko said this is the best defense we're going to play all year. I don't know if I'm buying it. I do think having played a really good Notre Dame defense helps. I think that's something that is going to make, it's just having played a great defense already gives you a little confidence heading into this game. You don't want to have not played any talented defenses heading into a game like this, because you're going to go, oh man, we're not used to this. You've played Notre Dame. It was a long time ago, but you have. So, you've gotten a feel for what a really good defense looks like. So I think the goal in this game needs to be to move the football on the ground, however you want to move it. Whatever your game plan is, stick to it and push it. I don't care. Y'all know I love balance. I don't care if you throw the ball 5 times and run it 65. If you are being successful, keep doing what's working well. And I think that Colin Klein is going to want to run the football a lot in this game. So that's my thoughts there. But once again, to finish up on the messaging before we move on to does a two quarterback system make sense? I love the way Coach Elko has messaged to his team. This is such an underrated part of running a successful football team, is having this solid messaging to your players. You want to make sure that your team is prepared. You want to make sure that your team knows that this isn't going to be some sort of, joke. You can't walk in and underrate this South Carolina team. You can't walk in to Columbia and say, well, whatever, we'll be fine. They're not that good. They're not as good as us. No, you're the better football team. Texas A&M is the better football team, but this is a really good team. And if you don't show up, and if you don't play well, and if you don't play your brand of football, it would not be surprising at all to see the Aggies lose this football game. So I've been impressed with Coach Elko and his messaging to his team. Needs to continue throughout the week, and I think that this staff has done a great job so far preparing their team for this game, and I think they're going to finish the job off well over the next few days heading into Saturday. Does a 2-quarterback system make sense for Texas A&M? I'll tell you why my opinion's changed on this, and we'll have that conversation coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I got to tell you about our friends over at Game Time. Game Time is the only place that anyone should ever be purchasing tickets to any kind of event, frankly, whatever you want to go to. whether it's a sporting event, whether you want to go see a comedian, whether you want to go to a concert, whether you want to go to a Broadway play, go see some theater, whatever you might need a ticket to or you want to go buy a ticket to, the only place you should be doing that is Game Time. I love all the features on the app. I love how easy the app is to use. I love how I can look on the app and see exactly what my seat looks like. That's another great feature. The Game Time app is the only place people should be buying tickets to anything. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. So, 2-quarterback system. We talked a little bit. I finally, now that softball season ended, because I don't want to get into it because I'm going to yell. But softball season, now that that's done, I was able to go on the SEC squad show, which will be posted, what day? I believe Wednesday or Thursday to my channel. But it's great. I mean, it's a great opportunity. The goal is to get there as much as possible. Now that softball's over, it should get a little bit easier. Basketball season will make it a little interesting with having to cover some games. But beside the point. So I was able to go on that show, and one of the conversations we had is people were quick to assume that Marcel Reed was going to start on Saturday. And, I came out there and I said, listen, y'all, I don't feel as confident that Marcel Reed's going to be the starter as it sounds like y'all are. I mean, if you listen to Coach Elko's press conference, it sounds like this could go either way. It really does. It sounds like this could go either way. Knowing Coach Elko, and it's just the verbiage he used, he was making a lot of, I wouldn't say excuses, but he was defending Conner Weigman. And I think they know what they have. They know what they have in Marcel Reed, in his ability to run the football. And I've talked about it. This has been my theme of the week. The one consistent thing that we have seen from the Texas A&M quarterback room has been Marcel Reed's legs. Hasn't been his arm, hasn't been Conner Weigman's arm or legs. It's been Marcel Reed's legs. Every time Marcel Reed's played, his legs have shown up. His legs have been there. And they've helped Texas A&M find a way to, put points up on the board and win football games. Remember, Marcel Reed has yet to lose this season. I mean, he's really been great in his opportunity to shine. I mean, he comes in the game and wins you the game almost single-handedly against a top 10 LSU team last week. Now, I have been a very big anti-2-quarterback system person. And so you got to hear me out. I'm not fully bought in to a 2-quarterback system. I'm not bought in. But I am starting to buy in a little bit more, is what I'd say. Looking at the way this Texas A&M quarterback, battle group, whatever you want to say about it, has gone, we've seen Conner Weigman this is what I'll tell. This is the way I look at the quarterback room. I think when Conner Weigman is his best, that is your best option at quarterback. But if you really think about it, he was good. I mean, let's think about it like this. If you really think about the way Conner Weigman has played this year against the Missouri, so I'd say taking it first game of the season, Notre Dame, Conner Weigman was bad. McNeese, he was good. Florida, Bowling Green, Arkansas, Marcel Reed plays those 3 games. Then you play Missouri, and Conner Weigman is awesome. Then you play Mississippi State, and he's not great. I mean, he had a couple moments of shine here and there in the Mississippi State game, but from top to bottom, he wasn't great. And then against LSU, once again, he wasn't great. So if you really think about it, if you really break it down that way, Conner Weigman has had one great game and then a bunch of not great games. That's just the reality here. He has had a bunch of games with one solid performance. Marcel Reed, now here's the deal. Now, you have to look at that on the flip side. Conner Weigman's only lost once, too. Now, I do believe, once again, if Conner Weigman, if you don't make that switch to Marcel Reed, Weigman has the second loss of the year against LSU on Saturday. Marcel Reed won that game. But Marcel Reed, once again, Florida, Arkansas, he's been great. He's been really good. He's won you important games. So I just have a feeling a two-quarterback system, first of all, this is without any doubt, without any second thought. If you take a look at what Marcel Reed does compared to what Conner Weigman does, there's no question that the entire rest of the season, Coach Elko, Coach Klein are going to have Marcel Reed ready with a game plan without any doubt. We learned that for certain on Saturday against LSU. They are going to have a game plan for Marcel Reed. I have a weird feeling, ladies and gentlemen, that they're going to stick with Conner Weigman. And that's just not saying I agree with it. That is just simply based on what they have kind of shown against what Coach Elko said at the press conference is how I described that. I just get this vibe that they might stick with Conner Weigman, but the leash for Conner Weigman is going to be so very short. So short. If he makes any kind of mistakes, if he doesn't show up, if he doesn't play well, if he does anything wrong, they're going to Marcel Reed like this. Boom, Marcel Reed. That's what's going to happen. That's just the reality here. And I don't disagree with that. I think that the leash, if you're going to stick with Weigman, the leash needs to be short. Now, the two quarterback system, do you do the whole, okay, Conner Weigman, then a Reed snap, then two Weigman snaps, then a Reed snap, then three, you know what I mean? Do you do that? Do you use Reed in the red zone, and do you use Weigman between the 20s? I just don't. I think that gets a quarterback out of a rhythm. I am not a huge fan of the whole, I'm just not a huge fan of the whole switching quarterbacks, because I think that it is going to, it gets the rhythm. It gets a quarterback out of rhythm. It's hard to stay in a rhythm when that's happening, when you're up and down, when you aren't finding a way to move the ball, and they go, okay, 2 plays for Reed. It's hard for Weigman to get in a rhythm. So I can see the benefits of doing that. I can see the benefits of going to a 2-quarterback system. I just think I think the rhythm would be more problematic for Weigman than Reed, because more than likely you're bringing Reed in there to run the football. Now, I think a great example of this is I watched that Kentucky-Auburn game. If you haven't watched it, don't watch it, because it wasn't a fun game. But it was just, we had it on the top TV while we were watching the A&M game. And, they brought in this quarterback. His name was Wimsatt. Kentucky did, for their starter Vandegrift every once in a while. They'd bring in Wimsatt. And me and all my roommates would joke, and we go, oh, well, it looks like they're getting ready to run the ball, because they bring in Wimsatt. And they would run it, and then they would gain nothing every single time. And I'm like, it's just so predictable. You have to find a way to make, if you're going to do that, you're going to bring Marcel Reed in, you have to find a way to make him make what he's doing not predictable, which means you need to mix in a few throws to that as well. Now, I'll tell you this. I don't think this is what's going to happen. If I had to guess right now what's going to happen, I think that they're going to throw Conner Weigman out there, and if he struggles at all, they're going to make the full shift to Marcel Reed. That's my guess. If Weigman's just not moving the football, okay, boom, Marcel Reed, let's go. Time to go. That's my guess for how they're going to handle this. I don't think they're going to do the 2-quarterback system. I'm buying into it just a tad bit more, but I think that's what they're going to do. I think they're going to go with the Weigman's our guy. If he struggles, we're going straight to Reed. Boom. That's what they're going to do. That's my guess. That's kind of how I see this playing out. It's going to be really interesting to see what the rest of the season at quarterback looks like for the Aggies. Texas A&M has a top 10 recruiting class this year and already a top 5 class next year. We're going to talk about the success and why I believe it's going to continue coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. Texas A&M currently has the number 7 class in this year, the 2025 recruiting class, and the number 2 class in the 2026 class. Why do they have the number 2 class in the 26 class? You might ask. Well, it's pretty simple. It's because they got 3 commits right after the win over LSU. And we'll deep dive more into those guys at a later date. But the point is, the reason this is so exciting, it's showing you what we didn't see under the previous regime. It is that winning big football games leads to recruiting. I do believe that the previous regime was recruiting based on, look how much money we have, look at all these resources we have and all that. It worked, good for them, whatever. I believe that this coaching staff is recruiting based on their, hey, we are winning football games at a high level. We are developing talent. We are going to put players in the NFL. That is what they're recruiting based on. And I think that is what's selling to these recruits. That's what's selling. It makes a ton of sense. If I'm a player, I want to go, here's what I'm looking for in a school. I want to go to a school, and obviously we'll add a third thing. What NIL does play a role. You got to get some money, be able to provide for yourself, provide for your family, stuff like that, pay for school, whatever. That stuff matters. Then it goes to what school am I going to get developed to the next level? I think that's important too. And then the third thing is I want to win some football games while I'm there. I want to compete for championships. I want to play in the college football playoff. I want to play in the SEC championship game. That's what a lot of these recruits are looking for. And right now, based on the trajectory of this program, thanks to Coach Mike Elko, I think if you're looking at Texas A&M for that, you're looking in the right place. I think Texas A&M is becoming a place now where you find a way. I don't see the winning stopping. I don't see the winning stopping for this Texas A&M football team. I know next year's schedule is going to be a lot tougher than this year's schedule, but I believe next year's team is going to be even better than this year's team because he'll have more time to develop. The young players will be older. You'll have some veterans around. I think that you're going to see that happen next year. So I think the recruiting is going to continue to be great. And once again, those of you that have been listening to Locked On Aggies, you everydayers that have been here for a while, y'all remember my one concern about Elko. I wasn't concerned about X's nose, wasn't concerned about his defense, wasn't concerned about his on-field coaching decisions, wasn't concerned about his staff hires, was concerned about, hey, can he recruit at this level? Obviously, he was here at Texas A&M before as the DC, and he knows what it takes, but can he sell his program? That was my concern. And it's funny, and we talked about this when I had Texas A&M running back commit DeAndre Ryden on the show a few months ago. I was like, hey, listen, I've never been proven so wrong so quickly when it comes to Coach Elko recruiting. He absolutely has knocked it out of the park. He's been great. He's got a chance to have the class is right now 7th for the 25. I think you're going to sit around there. A top 10 class his first year. I believe he has a chance at a top 5 class his second year. It's going to be really special. Recruiting is moving in the right direction. And what I love is that recruiting is moving in the right direction while at the same time, it's for the right reasons. It's not just, well, we have a lot of money, so come here. I know you're a 5-star, come here. It's, we will develop you. We will win football games while you're here, and we will turn you into an NFL player that is going to make a lot of money one day. That is what this staff is able to recruit based on now, and it's working, and it's going to continue to work. It's why you got those commits after the game against LSU on Saturday. Players want to be part of this culture. People want to be part of this. It's fun. Winning football games is fun. these recruits want to join in, and that is why Coach Elko is going to end up being an elite recruiter during his time as the head coach of the Texas A&M Aggies. That is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. Thank y'all so much for being here every single day. Really, really do appreciate it. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Hit the like button on YouTube. Helps the show a ton there. Leave a 5-star review on podcast platforms. Subscribe on podcast platforms. Follow on podcast platforms. That also helps the show a ton. Really, really appreciate it. Hope everyone has an absolutely outstanding rest of their Wednesday. And we will see you tomorrow right here on Locked On Aggies.